There are two ways in which any government can proceed. One is a way based on what you and I would call a free society, which is enshrined right at the heart of the American Constitution. The other one is a way which allows only one view, both of economics and politics, in which almost everything is either owned or controlled by the state, including the media, including the ideas, including freedom of discussion and everything. There is no freedom of discussion. Now, between those two ways, the free society and the totally controlled society, there are, of course, variations. I think what we've learned in Britain is that we've gradually, over the last certainly 12 or 13 years, with perhaps a little interruption, gone slowly further and further away from the free society towards something else. At the same time, we found, I don't find it strange, but some other people do, that we have stopped creating wealth. We've had a large number of increasing restrictions. And you've been finding two things. First, that we are more and more concentrating on redistributing the wealth we've got, rather than creating any more. To create more, you need a slightly freer society, and you need an incentive society. Naturally, when I see that happening, I look with very great alarm to societies which have gone even further left. That is, they've tried to redistribute even more and haven't had the incentives for people working hard on their own account, doing well for their families, and often then being able to create jobs for others. They've produced a much more prosperous society than we have.
We fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is The Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. I wanted to play you a clip. It's from Glenn Beck. I like Glenn Beck. I don't apologise for liking Glenn Beck. Sometimes he's a little weird, but he's never far from the truth, and he's way ahead of the curve. This is from August 27, 2019. It's just part of his monologue. Then I want you to consider the question that I'm going to ask you after you've listened to this. Here's the clip. The links, as always, will be on my site.
Okay, for anybody who hasn't been paying attention, I want to explain the Chinese social credit system. Since 2014 in China, the social credit system it has been implemented and is evolving into a single nationwide point system for all Chinese citizens, and it is akin to a financial credit score. It follows you everywhere. There is no place to hide from the cameras. It is evolved now into you have to have a certain app on your phone, and they monitor you every day. You take this app, you open it up, and you have to kind of take a test about what the great leader is doing today. And it gives you all the news of what the great leader is doing and what the communists are doing that is so good for you. Then you have to take a test. If you don't open that app every day, your social credit goes down. If you're not taking that test, your social credit goes down. They track you and feed you everything that they want to feed you, and you must consume it. If you jaywalk across the street, your social credit goes down. If you speak ill about the country, your social credit goes down. If you are talking to someone who has a low social credit score, your social credit goes down. It is horrible what is happening in China. It is becoming a true police state, Orwellian 1984, and it aims to punish for any kind of transgression that can include membership in or support for the Falun Gong or Tibetan Buddhism. If you haven't paid your debt, if you have excessive video gaming, criticizing the government, late payments, failing to sweep the sidewalk in front of your store or house, smoking or playing loud music on trains, jaywalking, anything that is unacceptable by the Chinese government. It also awards points for charitable donations, even taking one's own parents to the doctor. And the punishments are harsh. There are bans on leaving the country, bans on using public transportation. So in other words, sorry, all of a sudden you get to the bus and your phone says, offender, not enough social credit, you have to walk. You're not taking a bus. You can't check into certain hotels. You will immediately not be hired for any high visibility job. If you have spoken out against the government, you have posted something that shouldn't have been posted, your children will be pulled out of the private school and may not even make it into a public school. It can result in slower internet connections and also social stigmatization because you are now registered on a public social blacklist.
Well, that was interesting, wasn't it? You might think, well, what relevance has that to me? Well, think about this. It's quite long and winding, but it's important. With everything that's going on in our lives, that's conservative lives, that is, could this be our future? Well, some people say I'm crazy. Well, yes, I am crazy, I know that. That's definitely a given. But just consider all the little points that were made there in that short clip. And there's way more to this than that little clip. I urge you to go to the website that I will link to, and you can listen to it all, and do so. Certainly in the UK, it's true. And most of Europe, to be honest. In France, they know about these Muslim terrorists. They know. They know where they are, and most likely what they're planning to do. Well, that's the question. So if they know all this, and this certainly goes for the UK, why don't they stop them? Well, that is the question, isn't it? We should be asking that question. That's the main question we should be asking. In a time when we are surveilled so much of the time, why aren't such heinous activities thwarted? The answer really isn't that difficult. And I think a lot of you know the truth. We hear it every day in our mainstream media. The answer really isn't difficult. The answer is simple. It boils down to political correctness. 90% of the activities, due to half a century or more, in some cases, of unfettered mass immigration and so-called multiculturalism. I'll be pilloried for that comment, but it's true. Our societies in the West have been put at risk for fear of offending the wrong groups, who also, over a period, have embedded themselves quite successfully, I may add, into all aspects of Western infrastructure. So we come full circle because of this, and this alone. We have been forced to adopt a different style of society, one that has to endure constant surveillance. The upshot of this is always unintended consequences, that being not only the ability, but the will to spy on its own citizens, all under the guise of security and protection, when in reality the very opposite has been achieved. Are we not creating and upholding, building upon a society that openly supports just one view, the state's view, and that any one or group that should dare dissent from this view is an outsider and must be punished? Is that not what we're creating? You only have to look at the so-called social media to determine that. And it is even more profound in more established forms of media, such as newsprint, TV and radio. The question remains, do we continue on this path of what I consider to be democratic destruction for fear of social terrorism? Or do we return to our democratic roots of freedom and justice for all, and above all, freedom of speech for all. Isn't that the question? Isn't that the only question? You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, and email. We are also on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a twist, and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on the links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio. That's EHRADIO, A Radio. And please click on the like button. And you can now hear a weekend review of our podcasts on WHBJ DB, News Talk Radio. Join us and many others, and you can find all our podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com. Click on the Morning Moments tab.